Hey guys, welcome back to the game room. I'm so happy to have you all here with me. I'm a little under the weather, you can tell from my voice and the enormous bags under my eyes, but I'm not going to let that stop me from doing a video. Today I have 6 more games for you that I finished from my backlog. They're all randomly selected as always. They just happen to all be PlayStation games this time, so I don't know what the chances of that are. Maybe some statistician out there will be able to chime in. I haven't taken statistics since college, so I'm a little rusty. In case you didn't know, we're in the middle of doing a cash giveaway for $100. So if you want to enter into that contest, go to my previous video. I'll put the link down below. Follow the directions to be entered. And the chance of you winning that $100 are pretty good. It's a small channel, so test your luck. So let's just dive right into these games. Some of them are horror themed because I have like a horror themed October. Some of them are not. So maybe there'll be something there for everybody. This first game's a relatively new game. It came out this year and it's on the PS5. It's a survival horror game and it kind of fell into the horror October month theme of my whole random game selection madness that I do. And that game is Akai. So this is kind of an interesting game. It's basically, you play it like you're a shrine maiden and a demon has come to the village and you have to protect the village from the demon. I think the main character's name is Naoko, and it takes place during like feudal Japan. I'm thinking maybe like the late 1800s or so. She makes references to things like blackening her teeth, and I know that was popular in the Edo period, which is kind of interesting. I don't think I've ever played a game set in that time period before. But it's a first-person game. You wander around, you solve puzzles, slide puzzles, and marble puzzles and things like that. And it is one of those horror games that kind of falls into that you're sneaking around and hiding from something chasing you, which they're not exactly my favorite. I'd rather like kind of face the enemy head on and know that there's a chance to defeat it. But this game's not so bad. It's certainly not as bad as a lot of those other games where somebody's chasing you in this inexorable fashion and you feel like hopeless. At least in this game, you feel like you have a fighting chance. But on top of that, other than the fact that something's chasing you and it is a little spooky, most of the scariness comes from just jump scares, but I don't think they ever really made me jump the whole game. I found it more intriguing than I did scary. But the game, you can see, it looks good, but it's definitely a budget game. There's not really any music that I remember. It's mainly just like ambient sounds as you're walking around. In terms of like what you'll hear when you're playing, there's a voice actress, but I feel like she's trying way too hard. Her diction is way too clear, and it's very stilted and awkward. You can tell that it was poorly translated, and she's just reading verbatim what's off the sheet. And she sounds like she's like a diction coach. Everything is very accented and perfectly spoken the entire game, and it feels very weird. It's almost like a young female William Shatner. But I thought the game was pretty cool. You're traveling around this shrine in the surrounding areas trying to ward off these spirits. And some of them the last spirit's really cool. The final stage has some unbelievable parts that are very striking visually. I don't want to spoil them for you. But I thought it was really cool, and I was engrossed during those periods. And the game's short. I like it. You can really experience it all in about 3 hours, which, that's perfect for me. I'm busy, and I like to play a lot of games. But there are some things that really bring the game down. Some of the puzzles make, like, no sense, and there are no clues on how to solve them, or they're just extremely obtuse, and there are swaths of people on the internet just complaining about them and like, how are you ever supposed to figure this out? And honestly, some of the puzzles, I think 2 of them I had to look up because I was just hopelessly lost. One of them, on a walkthrough, the guy explained how to do it, and I was, I had the mindset, like, how would you ever figure that out? That's impossible. And then one of them, on the walkthrough, actually 2 different walkthroughs, the people said they never figured out how to do the puzzle. And it was only through like hours of random trial and error that they were able to figure it out. And even now, I don't know how you solved that puzzle. I don't know how they solved it. No one knows how to solve it. It was too weird, and it just seemed random. And I have no idea how it works. So without assistance from the internet, there's a chance you may never be able to finish this, you know, pretty brief 3-hour-long game. So that's a big downside to it, when the game kind of relies on its puzzles for the gameplay, and then some of the puzzles don't really work. That's a flaw. You know, and the ending of the game is, it tries to be really profound and build up this big twist, but there's not enough backstory going into it to really make it impactful, and a lot of what happens kind of seems out of left field. But, you know, I had an okay time with this game. It felt like a demo of a game or a student project or something, more than a full-fledged game, and it's really just kind of a spooky walking simulator in the Edo period with some, you know, puzzles in there of various quality. So how is Akai? I mean, I beat it in 3 hours. I had to get some help off the internet. Like I said, I don't even know how to solve one of those puzzles. I'd never found any solution that anybody could explain how it worked. It was just random. I don't know if it's based off some ancient Japanese game where you need to know the rules to do it, to make it make sense, but I'm completely unfamiliar with it, and the people that wrote the walkthroughs through the game were completely unfamiliar with it. So there's something's lost in translation there, literally. But Akai was just kind of a mediocre experience. It's helped by being really short. It's only 3 hours long, but it's definitely like a 5 out of 10. Aww. It's just okay. Up next, we have a game I was really surprised by. I was excited to buy this one, and it kind of exceeded my expectations in some ways and let me down in others. But that's Steredenn Binary Stars. You can see that it's still sealed. So this is one of those games, I think it came from Strictly Limited Games, and it was, I think, their 8th release, and it had kind of gone up in value since I bought it, and I checked the PlayStation Store, and it was on sale digitally for $3. So I just bought it digitally and played that rather than open my copy and devalue it by 80%. But this game is a really cool idea, and I've always wanted to play a game like this because it combines 2 of my favorite genres, which is it's a horizontal shmup mixed with a roguelite. And you know, there's no real story to the game. You're just kind of flying around shooting things, which is cool enough. You know, that's fine for a shmup. They don't really need much story. But the way the game works is you pick a ship, and then as you're playing, enemies will drop different types of weapons, and you can pick up 2 different types, and you know they range from things like ranged heavy weapons, melee weapons, little bots to assist you, things like that. And then after you finish boss fights, you get like upgrades, random upgrades. So it's all randomized on what you pick up, which, you know, is cool because it has some excitement and randomness into the game. However, you can also be at like the whim of the random number gods, because you may not just get what you need to have a successful run. And like all roguelites, it's run based. So the plan is to, like, over the course of the game, which is a short game, maybe 30 minutes or so, to gather the items and try to tune and tweak your build to have a successful run and succeed in finishing all the way through the game to kind of unlock more stuff. And this game doesn't have really many meta upgrades outside of the game. There's not much to unlock. As you find new weapons and stuff, it unlocks those. But outside of the ships, there's not really any, what do they call that? Well, we'll just say there aren't really any perpetual upgrades outside of the game. But the game looks pretty cool. It's simple, like a shmup should be, and I think it's really nice. A lot of the ships kind of blend in together, which can be, or the enemy ships blend in together, which can be hard to learn their behaviors and their patterns because they look so similar. They're all just like yellow ships with gray trim. But one of the driving factors of the game that makes it really fun is it's got like an unbelievably awesome metal soundtrack. It is fantastic. It's rocking and pumping all the way through, and it's got some cool hooks in it, and I really liked it. And overall, the game's very addictive, and I like the roguelite elements, and I've always wanted this kind of mashup. My dream game would probably be like a roguelite shmup if I had to design one. And when you get powered up in this game, it's really fun. It's a blast. But like I said, there are some downsides to this game. The enemy designs, like I said, are boring and look too similar. And I wish there were more useful upgrades and weapons. Like I said, you're at the whim of the random number generator, and you sometimes you just don't get what you need. And that's frustrating, but it's overcomeable. It happens a lot in roguelites. But one unforgivable thing in this game is that if you get too powerful in this game and there are too many bullets on the screen, the game drops to like 1 frame per second, and it'll freeze and crash your game. It causes you to you have to stop and reset the whole game over and start from the beginning. And my first 3 potential wins where I was pretty sure I was going to beat the game for the first time, I was so powerful that it locked up the game and the game crashed on me. One of them even locked up on the final boss, and it really, after I spent like hours working on it to have a run where I built my ship well enough to really succeed, and then the game just crashes on me. It's really annoying, and it kind of makes some of the potential builds not viable. You have to like literally handicap yourself to have a chance so you don't lock the game up. And I feel like that's like a fatal flaw in the game. Still, though, you can have a lot of fun with this game, and it's still very addictive, and you can beat it. You can have good runs if you try and you learn what to do and what not to pick up. And I was able to 1 credit clear the game on like normal difficulty, and I almost got the 2 all on it, which means like the game loops after you beat it and you play through it again. It just keeps getting progressively harder. I made it to the final boss on the 2nd loop, which is a lot of fun. And when all was said and done, I had the 132nd highest score in the world, which was really nice for my first time really beating through the game and doing a good job. But how do I feel about Steredenn? I think it's a really good game. I liked this game a lot. It has some technical flaws in it that bring it down, and some gameplay balance issues, but it's still a lot of fun. I mean, it holds in there, and it'll make you addicted, no problem. I think it's a great game, even with its flaws. If they were knocked out, man, this game may have been a masterpiece. I'm not sure, but even with those problems, it's good enough to still be like an 8 out of 10, which is amazing. Oh my God, guys. This is the game that has been on my backlog the longest of all the games. I bought this game brand new when it came out, and it has sat on the shelf and just till like a month ago where I finally was able to have it selected randomly for me. And it was at the very top of the list. And if you watch my videos on how I pick my games randomly, it's complicated, but fortune fell in my favor, and it finally got picked. And I was excited for it when it originally came out, but my enthusiasm had waned over time as I had heard people get more and more frustrated with this game and talking about how it let them down and stuff like that. But I played all the way through it, and I finished it, and it is Beyond Two Souls on the PS3. Guys, I bought this game, like I said, brand new when it came out, and when I pulled the wrap off of it, it had that like new PlayStation 3 smell to it, but that the PS4 and the PS5 games don't have. I don't know if it's manufactured in a different factory or if it's like the off-gassing chemicals from the clear PlayStation 3 Blu-ray cases, but it had a very nostalgic smell for me, and I kind of liked that. This is one of those David Cage, who is like the creator at Quantic Dream, one of his games. It's like a narrative adventure with puzzle elements. There's not really anything kind of like it. He did, Heavy Rain and Indigo Prophecy, both of which I've played and finished. And he also did Detroit Become Human, which I haven't played yet, but by all accounts, it's like his best game. They all pretty much play the same. And I really feel like they're more like a movie than a game. And I think that's what David Cage is going for. So what's the premise of this game? So the main character, Jodie, has this like spirit attached to her by this like ghost umbilical cord, and the spirit's name's Aiden. And she can use Aiden to move objects and sneak through walls and kill people. And she spent her whole life like being investigated by scientists until the CIA recruiter, basically against her will, and they make her into a spy. And of course, like every spy movie, they can't ever just complete the mission and have fun doing that. You know, that would be too different. Instead, they always have to go rogue, and then they're hunted by the CIA or whatever. And, you know, in this game, I guess the twist is that she has to like come back and save the world, which is frustrating. I'm tired of that. Like, why does it always have to be save the world? Why can't we just have like a supernatural spy thriller where she's like trying to infiltrate a foreign government? I think that would be a lot cooler of an idea, but you know, this is what we're stuck with. But you know, like all these David Cage games, you walk around with these clunky controls until you find something to interact with, and all the action involves doing these quick time events, and they always feel really forced, and a lot of times they don't even matter. There are videos on the internet of people playing like Heavy Rain and failing every single quick time event, like 50 in a row in this chase scene, and it's absolutely hilarious as the character just like bumbles and falls all over everything, and like it doesn't look like there's any way they're gonna make it, and then they succeed in the end. It's very silly. But in this one, I guess the gimmick is that you can switch over and control Aiden, but it basically just it works the same way as controlling the main character, except you're in 3D space. You can move up and down and go through floors and stuff, but a lot of the times, because you're connected with this invisible umbilical cord, you're limited in how far you can go. So you're hanging around Jodie, the main character, most of the time. But you're still just like looking around until you find something to interact with, and then you interact with it and the game advances. In this game, you know, the gameplay has never been the strong point of any of these David Cage games. And this one has a problem too, where it locks up on you occasionally, which is really annoying. There are some fun sections of it where there are like stealth sections where she's being trained by the CIA, and some parts where she's on a mission in another country. But they're all like towards the end of the game. And I don't know why they didn't lean harder into that, because they were the best parts of the game to me. And the fact that they're like basically set pieces used at the end of the game to mix things up was a little disappointing. The game itself looks really good. It looks okay for a PS3 game. The character models are really nice, and their faces are, you know, I don't know what Quantic Dream does, but they're notorious for how well their faces are scanned into the software. They look very good. You can see the pores and the scars on their face and everything. But their movement and their body language is like very squarely in that uncanny valley sort of place. It looks very wooden, not wooden as in like the material, but wooden as in awkward. And it's kind of almost comical how bad it looks. It looks like a real human head put on like a mannequin body. In the game, it's just too dark in terms of not like its subject matter, but in terms of its gamma. It's hard to see at times, and I couldn't find any way to really adjust the gamma in the game. So I was just forced to look at it darkly. I turned up the contrast on my TV, or the brightness on my TV, and that helped some, but still, I don't know what was going on there. And the game also opts for this shaky hand cam look that was real popular around the time this game came out. Every movie had that shaky hand cam look, and it's dated now. I'm done with it. I'm kind of like, let's just see the action without making it seem more intense than it is by jostling the camera around. But the game, it was decent. It had some real highlights. I really liked the CIA missions, and I thought having like a ghost as a spy was a really cool idea. And the voice acting by Elliot Page and Willem Dafoe were great. I thought they kind of knocked it out of the park, and they're great actors, so that's to be expected. But there are some real flaws with this game. Let me just get right into that. The narrative, this is one of these kind of like choose your own adventure sort of games. It's unaffected by your choices or failed QuickTime events. Like they don't even really seem to matter a lot of the times, which makes them feel like they're filler, and that really as you're playing, nothing's really at stake. And for some reason, I don't get this. The story is told out of order, like for no reason, like a la Pulp Fiction. And I don't get that. It led me to this like philosophical quandary in my mind, and of what's better like in a story, like understanding a character and their motivations in the moment, or like throwing all of that away to add a sense of mystery and confusion for like a cheap plot twist later. I don't know. I feel like David Cage opted for the latter. Like he like washed over the importance of the character development and understanding the story to like have a weird twist ending. And I don't really get that. You know, I feel like the game would have been told more effectively, or the story would have been told more effectively if the game will play was in order. But you know, what are my final thoughts on this? You know, David Cage, he fills his games with these like long segments of normal life stuff, like, you know, going to get something from the garage, like a light bulb, or taking off your boots, or brushing your teeth, or, you know, opening a door. And I don't get why he fills his games with this stuff. Like, why? There's so much time you're just doing these mundane tasks. I guess it's to help you feel like this character's real, like a real person, and you're trying to sympathize with them. But really, instead of that, it just makes you dislike them more because they're boring. And in direct contrast with that is, like I said earlier, I don't understand why games, this one in particular, but in general, why games feel the need to escalate everything to like saving the world. Like, why is it always about saving the world? Why can't it just be about like, isn't being a spy good enough? Is that not a good enough thing? It's really cool and novel to most people. Most people out there aren't spies. But, you know, when you're just trying to save the world all the time, where do you go from there? It's kind of like the movie The Seven Samurai and why it's so touching and has stood the test of time now. You know, it's just these samurai trying to protect a village from raiders. And like, that's the world to them. You know, we got to protect this village. And the stakes feel even higher than they do in something like this, where, you know, it's this huge sci-fi odyssey that takes place over half of a girl's life. And, you know, she's got to save the world from unseen forces or whatever. It's just, I don't know. I feel like once you've hit that point, there's nowhere left to go. So you need to innovate. And this game kind of failed to do that. It didn't really innovate like it was supposed to. So it's been on the backlog forever, and I finally beat it. I beat Beyond Two Souls, and I was a little let down, but it kind of fell where I was expecting it to be based on what I've read on the internet over the last... Oh Lord, when did this game even come out? It came out in 2013. 9 years ago. It sat on the backlog for 9 years. Anyway, it's okay. It's fine. If you could pick it up for $1 or $2 or something, or maybe if the PS4 re-release has the bugs fixed and it doesn't crash on you several times at like important points that you end up having to replay. Try it out. It's like a 6 out of 10. It's good. Aww. This next game is the most surprising one of the whole bunch. It's a compilation on the PSP, and I hate this series of games. I absolutely hate it. It's one of my least favorite of all time, but I got burned really bad buying this game on eBay, which is a story I'll tell one day. So I felt obligated to play it, and then I played through it again, like kind of to refresh myself, and discovered that I hated these games even more. However, this game was the last one on the compilation, and it was the one that I really enjoyed the most, and I actually thought it was a really fun game. And that is TwinBee Da, and it's on the TwinBee Portable compilation on the PSP. So this is a cute 'em up, as they say. It's a shmup with really cute elements, and like I said, I played through these games when they came out. Not when they came out, but when I originally purchased this PSP compilation, and I just spent a little cursory time with it. I played through each one of them, kind of credit feeding my way through, and I put it on the shelf. But I've been recently trying to go back through all the shmups that I finished and actually learn them and try to get the one credit clear and all of that. So that's taken years, and I'm towards the end of that little side mission that I've been working on. Like I said, I absolutely hate the TwinBee series. I love the way it looks, but the mechanics are so unbelievably frustrating that I don't know what to do. It involves with whatever the TwinBee game is, if it's a side scroller or it's horizontal or it's vertical or whatever, there are these bells that pop out of various things, and you shoot them to juggle them. And as you shoot them a certain number of times, they'll rotate through these different colors, and you collect the different colors to upgrade your ship. The problem I have with the bell juggling mechanic, one, is that you're juggling these freaking bells. There'll be like 5 of them on the screen at one time. and it's almost impossible to shoot the one you want to and get it to stop on the color you need. And it's really hard managing all that. But the thing that kills it is as you're juggling these bells and you're focusing on it, it's really hard to focus on the enemies and the bullets that are all over the flipping screen, and the bells block your shots. So as you're juggling these bells all across the screen, like maybe 25 or 30% of the screen will be blocked because you're juggling these bells, which I just really hate. So that being said, what did this one do right? Well, first of all, this was originally a Game Boy game that was only released in Japan, and when they ported it over for this compilation, M2, like the port masters, remade the entire game just for this compilation, and they like knocked it out of the park. They did a fantastic job. It's, you know, it's a vertical shmup, and it has these bombing mechanics like Xevious, and it has the TwinBee juggling mechanic, but it works so much better here, and you're able to see what's going on and actually manage the bells to a point where you get upgraded, and then you can just ignore them and you can just play the game, and you're able to get like fully powered up in the first level, where a lot of TwinBee games it takes like half the game to get leveled up all the way. And the difficulty in this is pretty low, and it makes it a lot more fun. I was able to get the 1 credit clear on this game on normal on like my 3rd try playing through it. So it's a lot easier than the other ones. Like I said, this game has terrible Gradius syndrome, or the TwinBee series has terrible Gradius syndrome, where if you die and you lose your power-ups, you're screwed. Like, you won't be able to kill any of the enemies because you're too weak. But this one, when you die, like, all your power-ups just pop out in this little ghost. And if you pick up the ghost, you're fully powered up again. So you just keep going, which is awesome. And as you can see, the game's bright, it's beautiful, it's colorful, it's cute, and the music is fantastic. The TwinBee games look great, and they sound great, they have great music. It's just that bell juggling mechanic that's so annoying. And like I said, it's the game, M2 really tweaked it. You know, there's reclaiming your power-ups after you die is really nice, and you can set auto fire on your shots and bombs and just hold down one button and just dodge. And that's really nice, because having to tap these 2 buttons nonstop will like wear you out. And on the PSP, I've got pretty big hands, so holding the PSP in a way where I can hit both of these buttons just like was killing my hands. And the auto fire, once I figured out how to turn that on, was really nice. The things I kind of don't like about the game is that it's a little short. I actually wish it was a little bit longer. You can blow through it in just, you know, maybe 15, 20 minutes. And I feel like it could have used maybe another stage or 2 to really kind of flesh it out. But it was a Game Boy game, so, you know, there were memory limitations. What are you going to do about that? And then the last boss is a little bit of a letdown. He has a lot of unavoidable bullet patterns, and basically you just kind of have to tank through it. So your goal is to get to that point with like as many lives as possible, and then just burn through all your lives on him. And I didn't like that. I felt like he could have used some more well thought out patterns. But this is by far the best TwinBee game I've ever played, and I really, really, really liked it. Like I said, I was able to get the 1cc on my 3rd time playing it, and then I bumped it up to the hardest difficulty and got it the 1cc. I 1 credit cleared it immediately after that. So it's very doable, and if you like the idea of a vertical shmup, and you like you want to play a cute 'em up, you like those bright, colorful, cartoony looks, or those bright, cartoony graphics, this is a great one to dive into. I'm sure you can. I don't know if this can be emulated or not. Now that I think about it, it's like a PSP game, and I think this version is only on this PSP version, but maybe it's been released on Steam or something like that. I'm not sure. So I don't think I've ever played another TwinBee game that I would give more than like a 5 out of 10 to. I hate a lot of them. I just absolutely hate. They're like 3 out of 10 games, and they are immensely frustrating to me. And I know people love them. They're beloved. It's a beloved franchise, but it's just the gameplay does not suit me. However, TwinBee Da was fantastic, and it's really the reason to own this compilation, which is getting pretty expensive now. But TwinBee Da is great. It's like an 8 out of 10. This next game was part of the Halloween theme this year, and it's a remake of a PlayStation 1 game that I've never played, and a lot of people on the internet didn't like this game, and they thought it was kind of a cash grab and lame, and there was no reason for it, but I had a really good time with it, and I enjoyed it a lot, and my daughter played about halfway through it and watched me play the other half, and that's MediEvil on the PS4. So MediEvil, in case you don't know, it's kind of like a hack and slash 3D action game. I think the PS1 original came out in like 1998. And so I was excited about this. I picked it up on clearance at Walmart, I think for $5. So no matter what happened with this one, I was going to get my money's worth. And like I said, I had a great time with it. But I don't know if this is true. When I popped this game in my PS4, it downloaded a gigantic patch. And I looked online and people were saying that the game is maybe unplayable at all without the patch. Like the disc is programmed to make you download a patch. And I saw a couple people that said that like if they disconnected their PlayStation 4 from the internet and turned off their Wi-Fi adapter and all that, that they were able to get the game to boot. I didn't check that, but I hate that idea that it's not playable without internet access. That's a real gaming sin to me. But the game itself, excluding that, was a lot of fun. You play as Daniel Fortescue, who is this knight that was vanquished by the very first arrow fired during this ancient battle when everyone in the land was trying to overthrow this evil sorcerer. But people didn't know that he was like the first one to fall in the battle, and he's been hailed as this great hero for like a century or something. Anyway, the evil sorcerer has come back, and Daniel Fortescue has been resurrected as a skeleton to try to amend his premature death in the old battle and really become the true hero he was supposed to be. It's kind of a funny idea, and it's a little bit of a twist at the beginning, and I was happy to see it. It made me laugh. But the gameplay is really fun. It's very PlayStation 1 era style. It's like I said, it's a third-person hack and slash. The controls are a little slippery and kind of janky, but the game is mostly mindless button mashing. And it's a bit of a collect-a-thon. You're kind of exploring these levels, trying to find keys and weapons and items and gold to power up your character. And you have to explore to find secret areas and kill like a certain set number of enemies or do some other objective during the game to find these chalices, and you turn the chalices in between the levels to get new weapons and upgrade your character. And it's actually kind of fun. I really actually enjoyed this. I hate collect-a-thons. I especially hate 3D collect-a-thons. I know a lot of you guys out there would crucify me for that, but they are not my jam. But this game was able to mitigate a lot of my hate through wise gameplay and cool level design. And when I first started playing this game, I was kind of having a hard time with it. I was kind of getting my butt handed to me, especially when I ended up down in this ant colony. And I had like one hit point, and if anyone hit me, I just died immediately, and I couldn't find a checkpoint or any healing items. And I was super frustrated. And I looked online, and everybody's like, "Oh man, this game's super easy. It's way easy. The charge attack really makes this game a walkthrough, or the charge attack really makes this game a walk in the park." And I was like, charge attack? I didn't even know you could like charge up your attacks. I was like trying to kill these ants by hitting them like 5 times with a regular sword swing, and I was just trading damage with them and dying instantly. But it turns out if you do a charge attack, you just walk in and like ground slam the whole area and kill all the ants. So that made the game a lot more fun. And as you can see from the gameplay, the game has like a charming, cartoony, almost like Tim Burton style with the same kind of whimsical orchestral music to fit. And it's really amazing. The music in this is amazing, and I think that the aesthetic overall of the game is really cool and fun, and the perfect game to play for Halloween. And, you know, like I said, the things that I think mitigated a lot of that frustration you have in collect-a-thons is that the levels are pretty small and rather quick in this. And there's a lot of good, decent humor that really keeps you entertained, and even like some levels that sort of reach outside the genre. There's one that's almost like a Smash TV inspired level with zombies, and it's a lot of fun. And there's a decent challenge here. You know, it's not just a walkthrough. I keep saying walkthrough. I mean walk in the park. You know, there's a decent enough challenge there for your average gamer. But some of the things that like kind of bring the game down is that the movement is too fast and a little too slippery. I felt like I had a hard time controlling the character, and sometimes the camera, of course, can get in your way and make it difficult. And one of the things that's really frustrating that a lot of people modern reviewers didn't like about it is that there are no checkpoints in this game. So like if you die during a level, you start from the beginning. And some of them are pretty involved. They involve you running around and backtracking through the level multiple times as you find switches and secret rooms and things like that. And there were some levels that I had to play through like 4 or 5 times. One of them I got stuck on, and the game let me go to it early, and it turns out I didn't have the item to like progress. And so I died multiple times, and I get to the end of it, and then I can't even finish the level because there's an item in another level I didn't know I needed. And that was a little frustrating. But in general, this was a really good game. You know, it was a lot of fun, and it has a really good sense of charm, although it is brought down by a few little technical issues. I did have the game crash on me when I was fighting the final boss, when I tried to like open the inventory, which is annoying. And you know, having to replay some of the levels entirely because there are no checkpoints can be a little frustrating, but it's still a great little game, and I would recommend it to basically any video gamer, especially around Halloween. So I got it beaten, and my little girl, she got a little frustrated. She's only 8, but she was able to make it fairly far in the game too. So I think that there's some fun there to be had for the kids and the grown-ups as well. MediEvil was a good game. I enjoyed it. I haven't played the PS1 version, and this one I thought was really good. This is probably the definitive way to play it, I guess, as long as you have the internet. I don't know about the patch sort of situation, but that's a little disconcerting. I don't like that. I think you should be able to pop the games in and just play them without having to download a patch. But MediEvil, once again, we've had a lot of those today. It's an 8 out of 10. It's a great game. It's been a great gaming session. Like 8 out of 10s almost across the board. Pretty awesome. This next one is a spin-off to a sequel of a game that I really loved, and I did not have high hopes for the first game in the spin-off series. And I guess October, I played it last October. It won me over, and this game did too. It was just as good, and I really enjoyed it. And the game that it's based off of is one of my favorite games on the PS4. And this game is Bloodstained: Curse of the Moon 2. As you can see, I have the collector's edition from Limited Run Games, of course. So this is like an old school 8-bit side scroller, and I don't know what all to say about these games. They're fantastic. You play as Zangetsu. He's back with some new buddies, and they have to go stop, you know, the demon tower and its denizens and save the world or whatever. But it's the same sort of thing that you would get. And these games are basically like Castlevania clones. This one, the Curse of the Moon games, are like Castlevania 3 clones, where you can switch between the different characters, and they have different powers and weaknesses. So, right off the bat, this game presents you with 3 different difficulties. There's casual, where there's no knockback on your character. Then there's normal and veteran. And veteran has like respawning enemies, and if one character dies, it's just like game over. It's way too hard for me. So the whole gimmick with this, it's kind of like Mega Man meets Castlevania. You have to know which character to use when to have success during the levels. And I think that's really a smart and tested and tried and true gameplay design. And this game, you know, they knock it out of the park. They know what they're doing. And this game tries to mix it up a little bit too. There's even there's like a shmup stage at the end of the game that I thought was really fun. You know how I'm a big sucker for shmups, and to see a shmup in like a game that's inspired by one of my favorite series, which is Castlevania, it was thrilling to me. But the game has like this amazing like 8-bit aesthetic with fantastic chiptunes. I don't think the music in this one was quite as good as in the first one, but the bosses and the big sprites on screen and the parallax scrolling and the use of color in this game is phenomenal. And I really like all the different characters you get to play as. And, you know, there's lots of Konami references in this game, like solar flares that were kind of taken from Gradius, and the Moai heads, which are also taken from Gradius, make an appearance and stuff, which is, even though this isn't a Konami game, you know, Castlevania is, and this is a nod to that series. And And this game has one of my favorite characters ever in like an 8-bit game, and that's Hachi. He's like he's a corgi, like a dog, a little corgi in a mech you play as, and he's awesome. He's fantastic. And I thought that was just so charming that the Castlevania games were so serious, but these kind of like have a good sense of humor with them. So it not only emulates a great franchise, but it kind of does something new with it. And this game it's actually surprisingly long. There are multiple acts that involves like changing the story, but you go back through the game or play through the same levels over again. And it kind of has like light Metroidvania areas, elements to it. And so as you unlock new characters and you find new items, you get more powered up, you can go back and play through the other levels again and take different routes through them to have almost a new experience. It's really cool. But there are some things that are a little annoying about this game. Like there's an ice level and fire levels, and the platforming in these games is not great because once you jump with your character, you're committed. You can't change direction in midair like Mario, so you need to really be spot on when you jump. And some of the levels have some really frustrating enemy placement that I feel like is there to intentionally troll you. And in the last level, minor spoiler here, but you all go to the moon, which is kind of crazy in like a medieval fantasy game. But gravity is different on the moon, so your characters all behave differently. They jump higher and it's slower, and it really messes up your muscle memory that you've been developing over playing this game all of these hours. And so I felt like that was kind of a miss there. I don't think they should have changed the gravity. Going to the moon's fine, but changing the mechanics of the game is a little annoying. So, like, what are my final thoughts on this? I was playing on veteran difficulty to begin with, and I was getting a little frustrated. There was just, the enemy placement was really draconian and like unfair, like I said, kind of trolling me. And I feel like they almost did that on purpose. So I switched the game over to casual mode, which it doesn't really, I don't think it changes the difficulty. It just gets rid of the knockback, so you don't get like stun locked by getting hit by enemy after enemy after enemy and falling into a pit. And it made the game way more fun. Like, it was immensely more fun. It still felt like Castlevania, but it played more like a modern game. In this game, while I don't think it's as hard as like Castlevania 3, it's a lot longer than Castlevania 3. So, like, really hard games are fine if they're kind of short and you can learn to master them. But when you, like, there's 10 hours worth of gameplay or something, and it's that hard all the way through, it can really kind of turn you off to the game. So I recommend playing this one on casual. It's not casual. It's still hardcore on casual. And it's a lot of fun. There's enough challenge there to keep you, entertained, but not frustrated. This game, if it had been on the NES when it came out, I don't know if the NES could actually play this, but let's just say it could, since it's designed to seem like it's an NES game. If it had been on that system, it would have been like a classic, and it would have been considered to be one of the best games on the system. So I feel like you have to almost judge it against that as well as judge it as a new game. It's kind of hard to do, but honestly, this game, I beat it and I played through all 3 acts. There are even more modes to unlock by like playing this game and, only using one character, or, don't get like some secret items or something like that. And it's like totally different. And I just didn't have time to dive all into that. The first one, I 100% in Bloodstained, Ritual and Bloodstained Curse of the Moon 1, but this one they went like so far beyond all that I just didn't have time for it, and I felt like I had my fill of it and I was happy with it where I stopped it. And this game is fantastic. It's amazing. It is a 9 out of 10, and any fan of like Castlevania or old school NES games should definitely give this one a shot. Okay guys, that's 6 more games I finished. There are some that I'm playing that like I started before I even got to these 6, and I'm still working my way through them. I'm playing through one visual novel, and it's going really slowly, guys. I'm trying my best to get through it, but it is a drag. As soon as I like start reading, I start falling asleep. I spend all day reading at work, and I don't want to come home and read like 100 pages in a visual novel. You know, it's tiring. And I've got kids and a life to live, so it's hard to work through those. But these were fun. I was able to plow through these pretty quickly. And I've got a whole new batch I'm getting started on, and some more horror stuff that you guys will have to catch up to me in like a month when I do another one of these videos. But once again, I want to thank you all for the support and hanging in there with me. And like I said earlier, we're in the middle of a giveaway for $100. So head over to my last week's video and watch it and enter to win. It's a small channel, so your chances to win are really good. And thank you again all for the support, guys. I really am enjoying doing these videos, and I'm looking forward to doing some more of them for you in the future. So there'll be another one next week, like always. Be sure to comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time.